Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening.
We will pursue them to the ends of the earth.
Prime Minister Modi vows to punish the perpetrators of the Pahalgam terror attack, which left 26 people dead. The Kashmir police say 2 of the 3 terrorists involved in the attack are Pakistani citizens. Home Minister Amit Shah and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh brief all parties on the government's response to Pakistan. The Indian Navy test fires missiles in the Arabian Sea as tensions with Pakistan escalate. India also suspends all visas to Pakistani nationals from the 27th of April, suspends the Indus water treaty and downgrades ties with Islamabad. Pakistan terms India's suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty as an act of war, suspends all trade with India, closes Pakistan's airspace for Indian airlines. All bilateral treaties with India put in abeyance. The travel and tourism industry in Kashmir protests the terror attack with a rally and a candlelight march in Srinagar. Jammu and Kashmir's Chief Minister Omar Abdullah requests other chief ministers to take extra care of Kashmiri students amidst reports of threats and harassment in UP, Himachal and Uttarakhand. China says there are no ongoing trade talks with the US. This a day after President Trump hinted at a potential tariff cut. Beijing calls on the US to cancel its unilateral measures. Sensex and Nifty snap a 7-day winning streak to end at the low point of the day. Stocks decline across large parts of Asia and Europe as the relief rally stalls worldwide. FMCG major HUL meets estimates in Q4. 2% volume growth is a little higher than expectations. Nestlé's revenue growth remains muted due to rising commodity prices, but the company exhibits operational resilience. Axis Bank beats estimates in Q4. Net interest income increases over 5% annually. Provisions decline 36% sequentially, leading to an improvement in asset quality. Bharti Airtel dials the government over pending spectrum dues worth 74,000 crore rupees, seeks the conversion of the dues into equity similar to Vodafone Idea. That's a CNBC Awaaz exclusive. Tata Power's CEO Praveer Sinha sees an opportunity to supply solar modules to the US and other markets and is contemplating capacity expansion. Also expects to have a nuclear power generation unit up and running by 2030. That's an exclusive. 9 people, including children, killed in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, in a wave of Russian strikes. Ukraine's Zelensky cuts short a trip to South Africa. US President Trump blames Zelensky once again for the failure to strike a ceasefire deal. Let's go straight to the top story tonight. Ties between India and Pakistan under severe strain in the aftermath of the horrific Pahalgam terror attack, which killed 26 and injured 17. Speaking at a rally in Bihar, Prime Minister Modi has vowed to punish perpetrators. He said India would identify and track every terrorist and will pursue them till the end of the earth. Jammu and Kashmir police said that 2 of the 3 terrorists involved in the attack are Pakistani citizens. The police has also announced a reward of 20 lakh rupees for anyone who can provide information about them. The government convened an all-party meeting in Delhi to brief lawmakers on the deadliest attack on civilians since Mumbai 26/11. Top union ministers, Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge, Congress MP Rahul Gandhi, NCP MP Supriya Sule and other opposition lawmakers also in attendance. The MPs observed silence for 2 minutes in the memory of the victims of the Pahalgam attack. Home Minister Amit Shah and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar briefed President Draupadi Murmu, who is also the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces. Meanwhile, J&K Chief Minister Omar Abdullah convened an all-party meeting in Srinagar. National Conference Chief Farooq Abdullah, PDP's Mehbooba Beg and other senior leaders attended the meeting.
India will identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backers. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth. India's spirit will never be broken by terrorism. Terrorism will not go unpunished.
We also support the steps taken by the Union government announced yesterday. We extend our deepest condolences to the families who have suffered loss. We share in your sorrow and stand united with you in this time of profound grief. We appreciate the spontaneous, peaceful demonstration across towns and villages across the length and the breadth of Jammu and Kashmir, which exemplify our unwavering commitment to peace, communal harmony, and the rule of law.
The Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah, and the Cabinet Committee on Security, India's highest decision-making body on national security, unleashed its response against Islamabad on several fronts. Now, the Indus Waters Treaty has been suspended. All visas to Pak nationals have been cancelled. India has also downgraded its diplomatic ties with Islamabad by reducing its mission strength. Pakistan has been asked to do the same. The Atari border in Punjab, the only permitted route for Indo-Pak trade, has been sealed. Pakistan has said that any attempt to stop or divert flow of water belonging to Pakistan as per the Indus Waters Treaty will be considered an act of war. Islamabad, among a host of measures, also closed its airspace to Indian airlines. Parikshit joins us now to take us through the significance of the treaty and what its suspension could mean for both nations. Parikshit.
What is the Indus Waters Treaty? The objective of this treaty is to ensure satisfactory utilization of waters of the Indus system by Pakistan and India. It was signed between India and Pakistan on 19 September 1960 after 9 years of talks and brokered by the World Bank. The treaty was signed by then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and then Pakistani President Ayub Khan. As per treaty, India shall receive water from the eastern rivers, Satluj, Beas and Ravi, and Pakistan is to receive water from Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. This treaty is critical for Pakistan as it gets 80% of water under the Indus Water Treaty. Pakistan is also heavily dependent on the Indus River system for agriculture and drinking water. Let's keep in mind that Pakistan is one of the most water-stressed nations in the world. Restrictions in river flows could threaten food security, lower crop production and water shortages in Pakistan. The treaty has been termed as unusually generous to Pakistan. 80% of the water allocated to Pakistan, and India is entitled to only 20% of the Indus system water, even though the rivers originate in India. According to reports, even Mexico receives a far smaller share of water under its treaty from the US. What does India's suspension of the treaty really mean? India, for the moment, can stop sharing water flow data with Pakistan, such as flood data. India can also create storage infrastructure on the Indus, Jhelum and the Chenab rivers. India could stop visits by Pakistani officials to hydroelectric projects currently under construction in Jammu and Kashmir. But the suspension will not have an immediate impact on flow of water to Pakistan for at least 2 to 3 years. This is what experts tell us. What are the legal options under the treaty? The treaty cannot be abrogated unilaterally. The modification requires consent of both Pakistan and India. Grievances can be referred to a permanent Indus commission. Parties can approach a neutral expert or arbitrators. Experts say Pakistan cannot approach the International Court of Justice if India shuns the treaty. I spoke to P.K. Saxena, who is the former Indus commissioner for India, and this is what he had to say.
Once the treaty has been put on suspension, then India will definitely, our engineers are good enough. They will definitely go for certain ways and they will make changes in the design of the projects. Because no restrictions is applicable on us now. So it will take some time, but definitely the work can begin right now. And the result will be visible on ground maybe in a beginning from a week till maybe around 2 years or so. Legal options is, I think they have the legal options and definitely they are going to use it. They may go to UNGA first. And I believe that yesterday Pakistan Prime Minister also had a meeting. So I believe they will go for UNGA. They will raise the matter in UNGA. This treaty was signed during the atmosphere of goodwill. And now since goodwill does not remain and people are being killed, so definitely those kind of atmosphere is not there. And India has every right to suspend that. Obviously, they are going to challenge it, but we will fight it out.
Well, the implications of the Indus Waters Treaty being suspended by India. Now, Pakistan responding with a slew of retaliatory measures in addition to closing its airspace for Indian airlines. Pakistan has revoked all trade-related activities. It will also close down the Wagah border post with immediate effect. All bilateral agreements have been put in abeyance, including the Shimla Peace Agreement signed more than 5 decades ago. Madhiya standing by now to explain to us what impact this will have, the closure of the Pakistan airspace for Indian airlines. Madhiya, take us through what this will mean for airlines like Air India, Indigo, etc., who are operating international flights from India and back to India.
Well, Shireen, airlines like Air India and Indigo have already issued advisories alerting passengers their flights to Middle East, US and Europe will get impacted as they will have to take an extended route. So, as I said, international flights from India mainly to US, Europe and Middle East destinations will see an impact as airlines normally pass through Pakistan's airspace. So, what are the alternatives? Indian Airlines have tried the alternate routes in the past as well. For example, in 2019, after the Balakot airstrike, when Pakistan had closed its airspace. So, we spoke to a few pilots who fly on these routes on a daily basis to understand the impact. When the Pak airspace is not available, what airlines do is reroute flights further south of Pakistan and then crossing over Oman, UAE and Iran to enter Europe. So this will not change much for flights flying from Mumbai and South India as they anyway fly from south of Pakistan airspace. So they will just need a slight deviation further and that will add about 25 to 30 minutes more to their flying time. The major impact will be for flights from Delhi which use the Pakistan airspace to fly to Gulf, Europe or US. So these flights will now do a full detour to come to south of India and then fly upwards to reach Gulf and Europe. That will mean an additional 2.5 hours of extra flying time. Then flights from Delhi to US may also have to stop in Europe and then leave for US as the aircraft won't have a longer range. That would mean nearly 4 hours of extra time including the stopover. So in 2019, Air India flights stopped at Vienna and Stockholm and then proceeded to US destinations. This is not just about extra time. This will mean rescheduling flights, burn extra fuel, deploy more crew, eventually pushing the operational cost for airlines.
All right, Nabiha, that's important. And of course, airlines at this point in time are trying to cope with a situation that has just developed barely a few hours ago. We will, of course, keep updating our viewers on this story. Thanks very much for joining us. Jammu and Kashmir's Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has urged chief ministers of other states to take extra care of Kashmiri students. This appeal comes amidst reports of threats and harassment against students in UP, Himachal and Uttarakhand. In a social media post, Abdullah responded to a post saying that the government is in touch with other state governments on the situation. Many students took to social media to describe the ordeal that they're facing and cited that they were scared for their lives. Meanwhile, tourists in the Kashmir Valley continue to flee the region after the terror attack in Pahalgam triggered panic. Reports have said that around 90% of 20,000 hotel rooms went empty just 24 hours after the attack. More than 11,000 people have left Srinagar on 60 flights in the last 48 hours. The Kashmir Valley has observed a complete shutdown after the deadly terror attack. Shops and educational institutions were closed. Locals and politicians were also seen marching down streets. Candlelight marches were also held in parts of the Kashmir Valley. Students and staff of the Kashmir University also registered their protest against the act. And former Home Minister and senior Congress leader P. Chidambaram says the terror attack in Pahalgam was intended to create a communal divide. Speaking to CNBC TV 18, Chidambaram said the Congress party supports the government in whatever measures it chooses to take. Take a look.
Clearly, the government is pointing a finger at Pakistan, which is again expected and perhaps correct. So we welcome the measures, but it can't stop with these measures. Whatever option the government chooses, the Congress party will support it. The motive is to create panic among the people of India. The motive is to inflame communal passions. You know the kind of questions they asked of the tourists.
That's P. Chidambaram. The big international story. China has responded a day after reports suggested that the US was weighing a proposal to cut tariffs from the current 145% to anywhere between 50 and 65%. China's Ministry of Commerce has said there are absolutely no negotiations underway between China and the US at this point in time. The statement said, and I quote, if the US really wants to resolve the problem, it should cancel all unilateral measures on China. Meanwhile, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that there was an opportunity for a big deal on the trade issues between the US and China. US President Trump, when asked about the current tariffs on China, said it won't be that high. He added that a deal could bring substantially lower tariffs, but warned that if China didn't make a deal, the US would set the deal.
They all want to make deals, and we're going to make deals, but they're going to be fair deals. They're not going to be rip-off deals. And by the way, if we don't have a deal with a company or a country, we're going to set the tariff. We just set the tariff. It's something that we think that will happen, I'd say, over the next couple of weeks. Wouldn't you say? I think so. Over the next 2-3 weeks. We'll be setting the number. And we're going to pick, could be for China too, could be for China. We're dealing with almost all of them. Too many to fully deal with, but we're going to be fair to them. But we're dealing with a lot of countries right now, and could be with China.
There is an opportunity for a big deal here, that the U.S. is looking to rebalance to more manufacturing. The identity of that would be less consumption. If China is serious on less dependence on export-led manufacturing growth and a rebalancing toward a domestic economy, and if they want to rebalance, let's do it together. This is an incredible opportunity.
The back and forth continues there on tariffs. Back home, the Sensex and the Nifty snapped a 7-day winning streak today as the relief rally stalled across the world. A sharp sell-off in late trade on expiry day, forcing both indices to end at the low point of the day. The Sensex lost over 300 points, falling below 80,000. The Nifty Bank and the mid-cap index also closing in the red. Crude prices edging up after falling by 2% on the previous day. This after reports suggested that OPEC Plus was mulling ramping up production in June. The prices were also supported by a potential de-escalation in the US-China trade war. Gold prices rebounded as investors bought the dip a day after the bullion hit a one-week low amidst optimism over the US going easy on China. The dollar index also slipped, making gold more affordable for overseas investors. Bitcoin broke its 3-day gaining streak and fell to the $92,000 mark. Other cryptocurrencies, including Ethereum and Ripple, also slumped. The world's largest sovereign wealth fund, Norges Bank, has reported a first-quarter loss of $40 billion. The bank attributing the losses to the weakness in the tech sector. In a statement, the firm's CEO said that the quarter was impacted by significant market fluctuations, with equity investments mostly in tech stocks giving negative returns. Earnings. FMCG major Hindustan Unilever meeting estimates in Q1, 2% volume growth, higher than expectations. Nestle, revenue growth muted due to rising commodity prices. However, the company exhibited operational resilience. Mangalam is standing by to take us through the numbers and what this means for consumption. Mangalam.
Well, if you look at HUL, the results were largely in line with very muted expectations of 2% revenue growth, 2% EBITDA growth itself. There were a couple of bright spots and a couple of near-term concerns as well. For HUL itself, the bright spot was that volume growth came in at 2% versus expectations of 0 to 1%, even though revenue, EBITDA and net profit were all in line with expectations. The near-term concern and the reason why the stock was lower is because the company said that they will shave off gross margins to improve the value proposition to pump prime growth ahead, and as a result of which the EBITDA margin guidance for the next few quarters from 23 to 24% stands at around 22 to 23% itself. The big bright spot, however, is that they see growth returning in a lot of the categories. In fact, the first half of the next financial year, they expect growth to be better than the second half of FY25 itself. So those are a couple of factors that stood out for HUL. The stock lower, but one would have to look at growth in the next 1 year to see whether the brokerages will up their estimates despite them reducing their margin guidance as well or not. For Nestle, the top line was fairly muted, though operationally the company did report some sort of resilience. There was, that 2 to 3% top line growth that came in largely in line with expectations. Volume growth came in at 2% as well. But the gross margin compression at 62 basis points was a lot lower than what the street was factoring in, despite the sort of inflation that we saw in both cocoa as well as coffee. And the company did say they saw double-digit growth in their confectionery as well as beverages portfolio, along with the pet care portfolio as well.
The monsoons have been good after a long period of difficult weather conditions. The reservoirs are full, the granaries are full. We believe that the rural areas would remain robust. We as a company, of course, have or will compete in all market conditions, but we do expect that the macro drivers are positive going forwards, and we expect the urban demand therefore to start, inching back up. Therefore, on the whole, we do see gradual improvement in the macro.
Well, that's HUL. Axis Bank beating estimates in Q4 thanks to a rise in core lending income. Quarterly profits surpassed expectations despite falling marginally year-on-year. Net interest income was in line with estimates, growing 5.5% compared to last year. The bank's asset quality improved in the quarter thanks to a 36% drop in provisions sequentially. And more earnings. IT services firm Tech Mahindra reporting a 1.5% decline in constant currency revenue growth on a sequential basis. The company's revenue below street expectations. Deal wins came in at $2.7 billion. SBI Life Insurance posting a strong performance in Q4. Margins also improved, led by a change in product mix. The insurer's new business premium also above estimates despite falling 24% year-on-year. Up next on India Business Hour, Bharti Airtel dials the government after pending spectrum dues worth 74,000 crore rupees seek similar treatment to Vodafone Idea. That is coming up. And you can catch all of the NBC TV 18's news updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X and Jio Hotstar. The big international story: Israeli forces continue to deepen their offensive in Gaza, killing at least 45 Palestinians and injuring more than 100 in the last 24 hours. Forces have also carried out raids in the West Bank, arresting dozens. More than 61,000 people have been killed in Gaza since the war began 18 months ago. And in Ukraine, at least 9 people have been killed and over 70 injured after Russia launched a massive missile and drone attack on Kyiv overnight. Kyiv's mayor said extensive damage was caused to infrastructure and rescuers pulled survivors out of the rubble. Ukraine's President Zelensky has cut short his trip to South Africa after the attack. President Trump has called Russia's attack unnecessarily badly timed. In a post on social media platform X, Trump said Russian President Vladimir Putin should stop the attacks. This comes just a day after Trump criticized Ukrainian President Zelensky for blocking a ceasefire deal.
But we're losing soldiers, a lot of people. And if I can solve it because of a certain ability, that would be great. And if it doesn't happen, I will say that I think Russia is ready. And a lot of people said Russia wanted to go for the whole thing. And I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far it's been harder, but that's okay. Look, I just want to see the war end. I don't care. If they're both happy, they both sign an agreement. I have no favorites. I don't want to have any favorites. I want to have a deal done. I want to save the lives.
Well, that's President Trump. Bharti Airtel has written to the government about its spectrum dues worth 74,000 crore rupees. CNBC Abbas reports that Airtel is asking the government to convert its spectrum dues into equity. Asim Manchanda joins us now with the details. Asim, take us through what your sources are telling you.
As you are aware that Government of India has recently approved a scheme where telecom companies has been given an option to convert their dues into the equity. Vodafone Ideas already availed this scheme and converted its spectrum dues worth rupees 36,000 crore into the equity. Now what we are learning from the sources that Bharti Airtel is also seeking parity on the same ground. Bharti Airtel has written to Department of Telecom to give an option to convert their spectrum dues into the equity. When we tried to reach Bharti Airtel declined to comment. However, when we tried to reach Department official said this scheme is open to everybody. Any telecom company can apply on this issue. However, we will decide it on the case-to-case basis. The final discretion will be ours. So far, no decision has been taken to convert these spectrum dues into the equity. However, government may soon take a call on this issue.
Asim, many thanks. The Enforcement Directorate has conducted raids at 8 locations connected to coaching institute FitG as part of a money laundering investigation. Now, the probe agency has said that the allegations include diversion of funds taken from coaching centres towards personal gains or other entities. The raids followed FIRs filed by the abrupt shutdown of several coaching centres, which sparked outrage from parents who had paid in advance without receiving refunds or a notice. Ola Electric faces the heat again. This after the government sent the firm a 4th letter asking it about running showrooms without trade certificates. We learned from sources that the Ministry of Road Transport, this is the central ministry, has asked the EV maker about the number of stores it has in India and whether each of these stores has a valid trade certificate. That's not all. The government has also sought more details regarding discrepancies in registration and has asked the testing agencies to examine complaints against Ola Electric. Here's another exclusive tonight. Tata Power's CEO Praveer Sinha has said he sees an opportunity to supply solar modules to US and other markets. Speaking exclusively to CNBC TV 18, Sinha said the company is contemplating capacity expansion to ramp up solar exports. We've just seen the US impose tariffs to the tune of 3,500% on Southeast Asian countries when we talk about solar equipment. Now, does that open up an opportunity for a company like yours?
Well, it does open up opportunities for us, especially in terms of supplying these modules to not only US but also to many countries globally. And that's an area that we are very seriously looking at, that how do we not only meet the requirements of solar modules in our country but also export it and cater to the requirement of some of the other countries.
On that Startup Hour's Praveer Sinha, a fire broke out within the premises of BHEL's Bhopal unit. Visuals surfacing on social media showed massive smoke coming out of the premises. Reports suggest that the production is likely to be impacted at the plant. Firefighting operations underway. The cause is yet to be ascertained. The Delhi High Court has directed pharmaceutical firms to issue advisories to doctors, chemists and retailers stating that the fixed-dose combination cough syrups must not under any circumstances be administered to children below the age of 4. Additionally, the court has ordered the manufacturers to publish clear and prominent notices in 2 national newspapers, one in English and one in Hindi, with nationwide circulation. The National Stock Exchange has revised the eligibility criteria for companies who can move from the SME platform to the main board platform. The revised eligibility criteria mandates that SME companies must be listed on the SME platform of the exchange for at least 3 years. The small company should also have a paid-up capital of 10 crore rupees to qualify for the main board listing. Further, the total number of public shareholders should be at least 500 on the date of the application. Tata Consultancy Services has launched 3 AI-powered offerings to strengthen India's data sovereignty after closely working with the Ministry of Technology and IT. These include TCS Sovereign Secure Cloud, which is designed to keep sensitive data within the country's borders.
There is a significant use for public sector, but it is also used for all the critical infrastructure that we have in the country. So the critical infrastructure can be utility players, critical infrastructure can be banks who have all their data here, okay? And they don't want to expose that particular data to countries which are not amenable to us. So it is not, yes, there is a significant opportunity within public sector, but there is also a significant opportunity to enterprises as well.
Well, TCS there launching the Sovereign Cloud. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. The news will continue right here on CNBC TV 18. Stay tuned.